Iowa House Republicans are trying to pass a bill that would place insane restrictions on the state's SNAP or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, because of course they are, making it harder to qualify for food assistance and limiting what foods they can buy. The bill also, of course, targets Medicaid. Wait till you hear the details of this heartless BS. Nearly 40 House Republicans have co-sponsored the bill, led by House Speaker Pat Grassley, one that would limit SNAP food purchases, formerly known as food stamps, to only what is on the state's approved WIC list, a supplemental nutritional aid for women, infants, and children, which, by the way, is a very outdated list that people say does not keep up with modern times, modern pricing, modern needs at all. Some of the proposed restrictions in this new bill would mean that low-income, older, and disabled Iowans who rely on SNAP benefits would not be able to purchase, frivolous items like fresh meat, white bread, or sliced cheese. The bill dictates people can only purchase 100% whole wheat bread, brown rice, and 100% whole wheat pasta. No white grains are allowed. Also on the do not buy list are baked, refried, or chili beans. Instead, recipients must purchase black, red, and pinto beans. Cooking oil, spices, and salt and pepper would have to be crossed off the shopping list as well, along with soup and canned vegetables and fruit. Fresh meats are off the table. They don't got the meats, as Iowans would only be able to purchase canned products like canned tuna or salmon. Sliced, cubed, crumbled, and American cheese would also be eliminated from SNAP food purchases. Iowans on SNAP would not be able to buy meat, flour, butter, cooking oil, frozen prepared food, said Luke Elzinga, chair of the Iowa Hunger Coalition. It's a huge list. Actually, it's quicker to list what Iowans would still be able to buy with their SNAP benefits. Elzinga cautioned that if passed, this bill would be devastating for SNAP recipients. When I was running for office, I spent a lot of time in Iowa. I went to the Iowa Hunger Coalition event, and they were in great need well before this. For so many Iowans who are food insecure, who are hungry, who cannot afford the basic necessities, you think, oh, these people, they're superfluous. They're trying to stay on extra delicious foods. No, they just want to be able to provide for their family a decent meal that their children are able to enjoy somewhat while trying desperately to make ends meet. That's the reality of the situation. I don't think the 39 co-sponsors of this bill know just how restrictive it is and that it would ban meat, he said. Under this bill, no ground beef, no chicken, no pork in the state of Iowa, according to Elzinga. I just can't believe that they knew that's what it was when the bill was introduced. I believe it, because they just do not care about people struggling financially, not at all. The Iowa House Republicans just think the money could be better spent funding what they call more important priorities. More important to them, of course, more important than the basic needs for survival. Quote, it's these entitlement programs. They're the ones that are growing within the budget and are putting pressure on us being able to fund other priorities, said Speaker Pat Grassley. The bill also proposes limiting SNAP recipients' assets to the federal guidelines, which means families would not be allowed to even use the program if they had more than $2,750 on hand for an emergency, or $4,250 if they've got somebody with a disability or over the age of 60 in their family. It also exempts just one vehicle, which would potentially exclude families with 2 cars, which, newsflash, you might need 2 cars when you're each working 3 jobs, which is like 6 jobs, and you have to get to those places. But why would you need to get to your jobs that you'd need to be able to try to pay for food that you can't afford and you're not even allowed to now get assistance with, according to these heartless people? Quote, they also discourage people from applying for SNAP even when they are eligible, Elzinga said. They really discourage households from saving for emergencies because you can't really have an emergency savings account past a certain value or you'd be kicked off the program. And lastly, Iowa is not an outlier when it comes to food insecurity in this nation. The GOP, of course, is also targeting SNAP on a national level. If the SNAP budget gets slashed, millions of Americans could face greater food insecurity. More than 41 million people, nearly 22 million households, received SNAP benefits totaling close to $96 billion in fiscal year 2022, according to the Department of Agriculture. This is disgusting. I've already said my piece on it. Cenk, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, look, I got to disagree with you, Ben. I think that these guys are living high on the hog on white bread. and sliced cheese and ground beef.
How dare they?
I mean, come on, chili beans. Back to the pinto beans for you, okay? None of that fancy chili beans around here. So guys, when you make distinction between white bread and whole wheat bread, why can't you get sliced cheese? What's wrong with sliced cheese? You can't get canned fruit and canned vegetables. Maybe the only thing you can get is canned high fructose corn syrup. And maybe part of the restrictions is to help some like agriculture industry, food donors or something. Who knows? Who knows? Somebody's making a buck off of it, probably in a different direction as well. But mainly the idea here is it's punitive. These are not real distinctions. It's like if you say, hey, you know what? No steak, no lobster. Okay, I'm not going to nitpick people's eating habits, so I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But I get it. I get it. Okay, you don't want them high. No champagne. Okay, I get it, right? But no white bread, no cheese. No, you're saying I want to punish you. Oh, you're poor. You want to hand up. And we've talked on this show. We have people who worked here who got assistance before, and you know what happened? It was a hand up, and then their family made it, and then by the way, they hired other people, et cetera, right? That it's used by 40 million Americans, right? And so, but Republicans think these people in their darkest time when they need a little bit of help, we should insult them. We should make sure that they suffer a little bit more. And then have them, we're gonna nitpick their food choices. By the way, this is from the party that's in favor of freedom. No, don't have that. You have this, don't have that. Don't have this, don't have that. I'm for freedom. Freedom my ass. Now, but again, Ben, to be fair, counterpoint, they had these same exact restrictions on the bankers when we gave them trillions of dollars.
That's true. I remember it said we're going to bail out your banks, but as long as you don't no longer eat jelly beans or tasty meats.
Yeah, I think the Nutty Buddies were out.
Nutty Buddies were out.
Okay, Frosted Flakes gone.
Yep.
Okay, trillions we gave to the bankers. Trillions. We didn't even put in a restriction that they're not allowed to get giant bonuses of the companies they bankrupted.
Nor did we yet again ever even think of the little guy first during that mortgage crisis. We could have easily, I wrote about this at the time, we could have easily given all of those payments to the mortgage holders and required they use those trillions to pay their mortgages, and it would go straight to the banks after also helping keep people in their homes. Government didn't think of that. Let's just help the institutions, just help the banks, let the individual people fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Never mind, we're a country made of people. And if they're trying to claim, oh, we want them to eat healthier food, that's also BS, because healthier food is more expensive. And so you're just restricting the amount of food they can have. And also, the amount of money they allocate is what's already restricting it. No one's staying on this program because they're eating high on the hog, even if they're getting white bread, because it's a very small amount of money. You can still barely get the food. So sometimes you can get just more food of unhealthier things to try to get by. Maybe it's not the time for you to level up and go vegan while you're struggling to put food on the table.
Okay, by the way, so this is, they can't live high on the hog because they can't even buy the hog. It's not on the list. So listen, guys.
To ban pork in Iowa is especially cruel.
Yes. All right, so look, this one is not about Republican voters. Now, no one disrespects Republican voters in this country more than I do. I think I've proven it amply in story after story. Well, the rest of the media pampers them, babies them. Oh, they're so special, they're the real Americans. Oh, some of the Republican politicians question, no, they're the ones who put them in charge, okay? So I got no love for Republican voters. But on this one, no, you guys are getting screwed too, okay? This was just the Republican politicians. So, for example, yeah, the whole food stamp thing, et cetera. It started as a racial thing. It was like coded words. And by the way, people like Lee Atwater and other Republicans have said, oh yeah, the whole thing was designed to be racist. You couldn't say the N-word anymore, but you would say, those welfare queens, right? And people wouldn't know what you're talking about, et cetera. But at this point, and by the way, back then too, yeah, that's the politics that drove it, but a lot more white people are on food stamps than black people. So the result is not racial, the result punishes white people more, right? Maybe disproportionately black, because of the socioeconomic conditions, et cetera. But a lot more actual white people get this thing. And by the way, this is not, again, this one is not as racial in its implementation because this is meant to punish the poor. This is more class one, right? So if you're rich and you're a banker and you destroy the global economy, you're gonna have almost no restrictions. They're gonna give you literally billions of times more money than this, and they're not gonna put any restrictions on it. You get a tiny, tiny amount of money from the government, white, black, brown, it doesn't matter. They're gonna put every restriction. Don't eat that, don't eat that, you goddamn poor people. Because Republican politicians hate poor people. They're in the hate business, right? So they're like, well, we hate the trans people, we hate the LGBTQ overall, don't say anything about gay, we hate the critical race theory, the race, but poor people, white, black, it doesn't matter, they despise you because they work for the rich. And last thing, Ben, for me, famous last words. Anyways, in Kansas, they also had stuff like this, and they said, we can't afford it, we can't afford the white bread, right? And then they nearly bankrupted the state because of the tax cuts they passed for the rich. And it got so bad in Kansas, they elected a Democratic governor.
Right, and so the only good news here is that this is just a bill currently. It is not passed, and so anyone in Iowa watching this who is one of the 250,000 Iowans who rely on this program, or any of the millions who care about those people, Republican or Democrat, make sure you fight against House File 3 or HF3 and make sure it does not pass, and show these Republicans that some people still care about others in this country and in the great state of Iowa.